Hello everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So I was going to apologise for wearing the same outfit in several videos, but this is a sustainable fashion YouTube channel, so we rewear our clothing. And I'm batch filming, so it is all filmed on the same day while I have childcare. Anyway, this item that I'm making in this video is something that has been on my mood board for autumn winter. I think we all know how my autumn winter posting schedule went, and it is now on my spring summer mood board. I really want to make a nice quilted waistcoat that I can just kind of wear over t-shirts or over dresses, like a nice transitional piece across seasons. And I don't really want to quilt the fabric myself because A, that would take a lot longer, and I'd have to be more precise, and there'd just be a lot more kind of that goes into it. So I just wanted to buy a quilting fabric. It's going to be really simple and hopefully it'd be a really quick, easy make. The one that I had on my mood board that I absolutely love is this one. It's just really basic. Actually, this one's really nice as well, and the fabrics are kind of similar to the one that I've got. I'm not going to do pockets because I don't think the pockets would be big enough that they'll actually be useful, and I want to do it so it's reversible because I have this quilted fabric that I brought from Merchant and Mills. I saw it on their website a while ago and I was like, oh, that would be perfect for what I want to make. I also saw a similar one, well, like a double-sided one on Fabric Godmother, but unfortunately it sold out by the time I got to it. So this is like a block printed cotton, and it's double-sided, so this is on one side and this is on the other, and then it's got wadding already in the middle. All I'm literally going to do is make the shape as to what it needs to be, cut it out, and then bind the edges. The only thing that I'm not quite sure on is how I'm going to finish the seams so it's reversible. I might top stitch them down. Maybe I'll do a 1.5 centimetre seam allowance, and then that will give me enough space to kind of decide what I'm going to do. But I think I brought a metre of this fabric because it was quite expensive, obviously understandably because it is like 3 fabrics in one. And if I have any left, I don't want to waste any of it. So if I have any left, I might try and use it to make a fanny pack bum bag type thing, or I might try and use it for a cosmetics bag. Let's get cracking. I've got about half an hour left of time to work, so I'm going to see how much I can get done in that time. Okay, so I've got some dot and cross pattern paper. To be honest, this pattern isn't really going to be that big, so if you wanted to use any other kind of paper you could do. And then I've got my very old now basic blocks just to give me that armhole shape, yeah, kind of as a rough guide to start working from. If you don't have basic blocks, you could probably just, to be honest, use a top that had a similar fit and use that to trace round. Let's start by doing the back because the back's going to be really straightforward. So these darts, I'm going to get rid of them because I don't need them at all. I'm going to use my pattern master. I'm just going to draw a straight line. Just going to draw a straight line, and I'm just going to mark that on there. So because any edges that I'm binding, I don't need to add a seam allowance onto. Okay, so I'm going to take the centre back down a little bit longer. I think that's 41 now, and I want it to be at least 45, and then we'll curve it back up to there. So I'll square off that edge because it's going to be cut on the fold, and then I'll curve it back up to that point. There we go. So that's our back, nice and simple. Obviously, if I want to make the neck hole bigger or whatever, because of the nature of this pattern, I can literally just trim it down, or the armhole, because it is basically just going to be 3 bits of fabric sewn together. So let's write some information on that. And I'm just going to check this measurement actually. It's 27. So yeah, that's fine. Cool. So let's cut that out and then we'll do the front. Okay, now the same again with the front. I will draw a centre line for the front, even though that isn't going to be the centre line shape. And then let's draw in things that I know are going to be for sure, like the armhole. So I'll pivot from that point and close these two. Do around the armhole. And let's close that one a little bit, just so it's not quite as stuck out at the side. I'm just going to pop those two together. Yeah, so that's the right length for the back. But it's 24. So square that off again. And then I'll curve it down to there. And then I think I'm going to come up to about halfway. And I want that to kind of like go like that, I guess. But I'm not sure about that shape there. Okay, now to cut out the fabric. Maybe that way's up. Yeah, I think so. So let's cut on that side because I think that side will bother me more if it's going a different direction. Okay, so I've cut the front and the back out. I ended up doing a curved edge here on the front as I realised most of the other examples I'd seen had a curved edge. That's them cut out. And so now that they're cut out, I'm going to go through my fabric stash and see what fabric I've got that I could possibly do the bind to the edges in, and then I'm going to sew them together and bind to the edges. I can't remember the seam technique that I'm thinking I'm going to use. When I do, I'll pop the name here, but it's basically where you trim one side of the seam down and then just fold the other side of the seam over it, because obviously I want it to be worn both sides, so I don't want there to be a seam on either side. I will film that and show you what I'm doing as I go along. Okay, so I just took it in a little bit narrower at the back as it was kind of like sticking out rather than hugging to my body. And now I'm going to trim down one side of the seam allowance, and I'm just going to make the armhole slightly bigger as it was just cutting me a little bit tight around the arm, so I just want to trim off a little bit of the armhole. I'll go and lay this back on my pattern at some point and readjust my pattern, so if I ever make this again then I can just go straight ahead. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to trim this side of the seam right down, and then I'm going to stitch the other seam over it. So at the moment I'm trimming down the back side of the seam, so they're going to be stepped like that. And then what I was thinking is I'll top stitch, this is going to be quite fiddly, but I'll top stitch this one down and tuck the edge under so you won't see any seam underneath it. And actually I think doing this on the black side probably means that it's less obvious because the stitching is just going to blend in. Can't really think of a better way, because if I did a French seam, the seam would still stick out. I'm doing it so that the seam points towards the back of the garment. That's what I always do whenever I'm needing to choose the direction of a seam. I'll always go towards the centre back. Okay, so what I've done is I've actually pulled out some of this stuffing here as well, and this bit I'm going to pull over and I'm going to tuck the edge over, and I'm going to top stitch along that edge. So that's the seam. It's not really the neatest, but hopefully as long as it's strong, and I mean it's kind of wonky, but you can't really see it because of the pattern, and that's why we love working with patterned fabrics. So I'm going to do the same on this side. That seam has worked out all right, and then on the other side it'll look like that. So that's one side and that's the other. So I think that's the best I'm going to get in terms of a reversible seam. That was quite discreet actually. Cool. Right, I'm glad that's working out. Now time to do the other side. Found this fairly neutral linen in my fabric stash that I need to use up, so I'm going to bind the edges with that, and I think it looks alright on this side. I'm just not convinced about this side. Maybe it'll be alright, but I've got nothing else, so I'm just going to give it a go and see how it looks, and then I'll show you how I'm going to cut the bias tape out of this. So first of all I need to find a straight edge, which I can find salvage here. So I know that is the straight edge, and I should actually probably iron this piece. But yeah, what I'm going to do is fold that over to these 45-degree angle, which gives them a bit of stretch, and then I'm going to cut 2.5 centimetre strips all along here. I've got all my bias binding ready, so all I did was press it in half and then press it in half again. I will place it around the seam like so, stitch it down like that, just all the way around. So I'm going to do the armholes all along the hem and all along the front, and then on the front, probably about here, I'm going to do a little tie as well. So that's where I'm going to start from, I think, so it's all one consistent piece. I don't know what colour thread I'm going to stitch this in. Okay, so before I get started stitching it around, I'm just going to join a few pieces together to have a few more continuous pieces. So I'm going to put them to join them at a right angle together and then just stitch along there. And there's a bit here that I've just pressed the end in, so I can literally just stitch along that end, and that will be the end of my bow. Before I get started sewing this on, I'm just going to stitch just slightly less than a centimetre around the edge, just to try and compress the sandwich layers and hold them together. Just stitched just inside the edge. What I'm going to do is attach the binding. Start by popping one folded over edge on there and then sandwich it in like so. Stitch it all the way around like that. Okay, so the method that I was previously using to do the binding I wasn't happy with, so I just didn't think it looked very neat. So I ended up undoing all the binding that I'd done and then doing it a different way. So I'll show you what I've done. I've bound one armhole already, if you can see that there. So you can see the stitching on that side, and I've bound the bottom edge of the waistcoat, and then I was just going to grow on the ties onto the top edge. So the method that I was doing before was sandwiching the binding over one layer, like sandwiching this in the binding and just stitching it all on one, but it just didn't really end up looking very neat. And I also hadn't stitched my binding together as a continuous strip, so I unpicked it all, stitched it as a continuous strip, and then what I've done is you can see I've sewn it onto, I've already pressed it, but I've sewn it onto one side. So what I'm going to do now is fold it over and fold it over and over again, and then the neatest way that I found, and then like that bit, that end of that one will get caught in there, so that'll be finished off there, and then I'll just fold these edges together and carry on stitching along there. So the neatest way that I found to do it was I had a black top thread in my machine and a white bobbin thread, and I just stitched along in this groove, and caught, so the black was on my top side and then I was catching this underneath as I was going. So I'll finish the top half, and then I've got the other armhole that I still need to finish, so I've got a little bit more binding to do that with. Why do I keep getting out of focus? So I've got a bit more binding to do that with. Okay, so I'll leave this bit for now because I'll probably need to stitch that with a white thread. I'll make sure that's far enough underneath, and I'm going to stitch in this groove. Now I've got my binding, and I'm going to sew it onto my armhole as well. So I'm going to do the black side first, and I'm going to start somewhere where the join will be quite discreet. So I'm going to start at the bottom of the armhole. Okay, I am excited. I have wanted a piece like this in my wardrobe probably all winter. At the beginning of autumn I did a little mood board of my outfits that I wanted for winter, and this was definitely one of them. So here is the gilet. That's the back. So it has a nice curved edge around the front, and ties up at the front, and then this edges are all bound, and it's reversible, so I can wear it black side out or I can wear it cream side out. Let me know in the comments below which is your favourite. At the moment I'm thinking black side out, but it probably depends on my outfit, what I'm wearing underneath it. So I figured it would look nice with a white t-shirt underneath it. This definitely isn't my best white t-shirt by any means. It's just one I've had for ages, or maybe like a roll neck underneath, or maybe over a dress, or I don't know, the possibilities are endless. Maybe I'll do a little video of styling it. But yeah, either way, I'm really happy with how it's turned out. And maybe could have gone a little bit deeper even still on the armholes, and I might still do that. But yeah, I'm pretty impressed with it as like a quick making project. It didn't really take me that long if I hadn't unpicked all the binding. That was obviously the longest part. The pattern and the sewing of the actual gilet didn't take long at all. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below if you're going to try it yourself. And I kind of want to make another one now. I've seen someone else who makes like a quilted tabard, so maybe I'll do something like that next. But yeah, as a pretty easy sewing project, I think it turned out really well. You can't even really tell that I've top stitched the seams on this side thread there. So yeah, and don't have really much more else to say other than I absolutely love it. Let me know in the comments below if you are going to give it a try, and be sure to subscribe to my channel so you never miss another video like this, and I'll be back very soon with another video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and yeah, I'll see you soon. Bye!